Why Joseph Goebbels was the most effective propagandist of World War II. Goebbels was the Reich Minister of Propaganda in Germany from the formation of the Reich in 1933 to its eventual collapse in 1945. He was the most effective propagandist in World War II by appealing to the emotions of the Germans, bolstering nationalism within Germany, and making all aspects of life full of pro-National Socialist propaganda. One of the reasons Goebbels' propaganda was so effective was because it appealed to the emotions of the Germans rather than to the intellect. Goebbels differentiated himself from democratic leaders at the time who gave tedious speeches which the Germans were tired of hearing. Goebbels and Hitler instead gave speeches which were forceful, visionary, and full of emotionalism. The masses responded to this optimistic language as they hoped the Nazis would bring about a new age with an exciting and meaningful future for the German people, who were in despair due to the huge array of social problems which were plaguing the Weimar Republic at this time. Goebbels was incredibly skilled at utilizing new media, which at the time was radio and film. Film in particular was a strong suit for Goebbels' campaign of propaganda. Fritz Hippler, who was the German filmmaker who ran the film department of the Reich and under Goebbels, once stated, "Film does not aim to influence the views of an elite coterie of art experts. Rather, it seeks to seize the attention of the broad masses. As a result, film can exercise an influence on society that is more enduring than that achieved by church or school, or for that matter, literature or the press." Goebbels was described as a friendly uncle on the radio, and his speeches were hopeful and visionary. He appealed to the millions of unemployed Germans who were looking for an answer for their suffering. He instilled in the minds of the millions of Germans who listened to his radio broadcast that Hitler was the new Messiah who would alleviate all the problems, which he of course blamed on the Jews. He also used various means of propaganda to bolster nationalism within Germany. He was given the title of Minister of Propaganda for the German Reich and Director of Culture. He gave a speech every year on New Year's Eve in which he reflected upon the victories of National Socialism. He also went into the goals of the party for the upcoming year and includes hope for those who are unemployed. In his first speech, which was given in 1932, he states that Hitler will make sure no German dies of hunger or cold this winter. In a speech given in 1928, titled Knowledge and Propaganda, given to the Nazi Party members, Goebbels states, "Some kind of idea is at the beginning of every political movement. It is not necessary to put this idea in a thick book, nor that it take political form in 100 long paragraphs. History proves that the greatest world movements have always developed when their leaders knew how to unify their followers under a short, clear theme." He goes on to say, "I believe that the nation must be governed by the principle that the common good comes before the individual good." He is saying that the loyalties of the German citizens should solely belong to the state so that the collective may prosper. His speeches were carefully crafted, and the main points were often changed depending on the audience. An incredibly intelligent speaker, he was known to be able to boost morale from seemingly hopeless situations and craft reasons why the German people need to remain united under National Socialism. He was also able to make every aspect of life centered around National Socialism. His goal was to make National Socialism a worldview. One example is Goebbels turning the study abroad program in Germany into yet another form of propaganda. The students were gathered together and told that they were an essential part of German propaganda before they were mobilized and sent abroad. One American student recalls a girl by the name of Elizabeth Noel, who was an exchange student from Germany. She recalls Noel not being particularly remarkable about her behavior. However, she frequently wrote articles defending and eulogizing National Socialism for the college magazine. The students who went to Germany were frequently targeted for propaganda as well. Those who went to Germany were routinely thrown tea parties and given theater tickets at reduced prices. And they also wore the customary brown shirt uniform, all in an effort to indoctrinate them into the National Socialist mindset. Referencing the idea of the collective interest of Germany over the individual, Goebbels states, "As soon as I realized that this principle is not only of a transcendental nature, but that it applies to daily life, I have the need to tell it to those in the economic world. And if I see it applies to culture as well, I have the need to tell those people involved in cultural activities. The great masses will never be won simply by such a sentence. it must cast shadow over all areas of human life. Goebbels, along with Hitler, successfully molded the entire lives of the German citizens around providing for the state and for the Aryan race. Goebbels turned National Socialism into a religion and compared it to Buddhism, Islam, or Christianity and wanted it to conquer the world. They made sure that everything the German citizen viewed was through the lens of National Socialism. So, it goes without being said that Joseph Goebbels was incredibly influential, and some even give him more credit than Hitler when it comes to influencing the masses and getting them all to follow National Socialism. Had there been no Joseph Goebbels, it is safe to say that Nazi propaganda would be far less effective, and perhaps National Socialism would not capture the broad masses as it did. Or perhaps the citizens would be far less fanatic in their support for Nazism and their willingness to support such horrific acts of violence, including the Holocaust. Joseph Goebbels utilized propaganda of all mediums, not only to gain support for the National Socialist cause, but to also turn it into a worldview and into a religion.